was lucky enough to work at Walmart for 4 years, and these are a few experiences I have had just from that time. I started there working the evenings, usually noon to 9, or as late as 3 p.m. to midnight. The first one I recall was closer to when I started, which is why it was so memorable. I was a cashier and eventually also worked in customer service, so I was all over the front end. It was my first job, so I took it seriously, and I was proud of it too. I did a great job, at least according to my reviews. I was polite, friendly, and fast at ringing people up. I had a few people I called my regulars, some of them that price matched, if that tells you how long ago this was, and extreme couponing. Some of them were definitely unbearable. The ones that are unorganized and nitpicky on the order you ring everything up and bag them, but I dealt with each one as best I could. One lady, though, made it to where I cringe anytime someone pulled out their binder of coupons afterwards. She came in probably every 2 weeks with a small child in the basket part of the cart, not in the front where you would normally see a kid. He was holding an old tablet that was not in good condition. The screen was spider webbing in one corner. It looked like the plastic frame was splitting apart too, but he was still watching or playing something on it, volume on full blast too. He hardly looked up from it, and his legs were pulled up towards him, probably because he didn't have room, as this did not stop his mom from filling the cart up with items, not just dry foods, but raw meats and produce too. The lady was always very organized as she laid her items on the belt. She made sure to tell people behind her that she was going to be a while, and they usually left my lane. If you reached over to grab a different item, she would flip. She would yell slightly to say, "Stop," or "Don't," or give you some kind of lecture about doing items in order, but without ever making eye contact with you. She would keep looking down at the floor or her purse or something, so I learned and kept everything in order and bag as she requested. I never really had any more of an issue other than that, so my coworkers teased me that I was her favorite. However, that would soon change. She came in as normal. The kid is covered in food, playing on his tablet. Mom is organizing the items on the belt. I picked up 2 packs of cookies and the coupon on it that was a buy one, get one when I noticed the coupon had expired by 3 days. When I looked up, I told the woman I wouldn't be able to accept it since it expired, and she yelled, "What?" and immediately snatched it from my hand. She looked at it and told me I was wrong and to try it again. I again apologized and told her there was nothing to try as it was expired, so we couldn't accept it. She began arguing about what day it was, telling me that my register obviously had the wrong date. I again had to explain that wasn't possible and even showed her the date on my phone to prove it. From there, she lost it. She started screaming about how I was incompetent and a liar, and that Walmart's brainwashing had finally gotten to me too. At this point, I called for my manager. I had only been there for around 6 months, but this was the most confrontation I had come across and didn't know how to handle it. Thankfully, the manager's podium was within my view, so they could see the look on my face and started coming over fairly quickly. When they arrived, she immediately directed her anger to the manager, saying I was refusing to take her coupon. I tried explaining the situation to the manager when this lady pulled a steak knife from her purse. My manager immediately called security on the walkies and tried calming her down. She was pointing it at us, screaming we were just trying to ruin her and cause her to lose her kid. This whole time, I kid you not, this kid has not looked up once. He continued to play on his tablet. He was not fazed at all, which sadly made me feel like he was used to this from her. At this point, the whole store seemed quiet, but her screaming and my manager trying to calm her down. There were people all around recording and taking pictures, which only seemed to make her angrier. After what felt like forever, she tried to run towards my manager with the knife raised when another customer saw this and bravely tackled her to the ground. Thankfully, the knife slid away from her and my manager put his shoe on it to hold it there. 2 cops walked in as this was occurring and quickly took over. This whole time, again, the kid still has not looked up. A cop actually had to come up and grab the kid out of the cart before he even looked up. The mom was already outside, but I would expect a kid like him to be crying or scared, but he didn't even ask for his mom. It was actually kind of sad. I don't know what happened to her or her kid afterwards, but I think CPS showed up to take the kid. These next 2 are from my late night shifts. Maybe not necessarily dangerous people, but definitely ones that I wouldn't approach on my own. The first one is the lady my coworkers nicknamed Gucci Grandma. We called her that because she was always coming in around midnight with the flashiest clothes on. Typically, it was a really tight pencil skirt, heels or knee-high boots, and some kind of shirt, and she had to have a dozen of those fuzzy half jackets. At this point, I swear I've seen one in each color, some with different patterns or sequins, and she had those giant sunglasses on. As I mentioned, it was midnight. Her hair was also a sight. It was shorter and gray, but it was usually pulled up in a tall bun, think beehive style. Then she always had a bright red lipstick and very pink cheeks, like way too much blush. Then in the rare occasion she takes off her sunglasses, she also has eyeshadow on to the extreme. So while her look is pretty out there, that's not the weirdest part. She always comes in with what looks like one of those cheap children's toy strollers with something wrapped in blankets sitting in it. We couldn't tell if it was a real child at first until one of my friends in the fitting room area saw her swiftly shushing something and grabbing it. When she lifted it up, it turned out to be a baby doll. But the baby doll was creepy as hell. It looked really old, like it was covered in dirt or soot. Its hair was a mess and tangled, and it was definitely not making any noises. But she kept swinging it and shushing it like it was alive. My friend tried to not make eye contact and just kept working on her stuff when she walked up to her and apologized for all the noise, saying, "She gets cranky around this time." My friend said she didn't know what to do but smile and say it's okay. We saw her many times after this shopping, browsing aisles, talking to the doll, and even taking pictures with it. It became a normal thing, as weird as it looked, but the last time we could account for her, she came in looking rough. Her hair was a mess. It wasn't in her normal bun, but was frizzy and standing up, like she just stuck a fork in a socket. Her jacket was really dirty. Her shirt was stained. Her skirt torn on the side, and she was barefoot. She still had her glasses on, but her lipstick was almost gone. All this, but she still pushed her stroller with the baby doll. We just stared for a while when I decided to ask if she was okay. We may have teased in the past, but I actually felt bad at this point. When I approached her to ask, she shushed me, patted my head, and whispered everything would be all right. She left after buying a package of Band-Aids, and we never saw her again. I don't know whatever happened to her, but I do kind of miss seeing her and hope nothing bad happened. Last one was more odd than anything. We were just starting the switch over to the night crew, so around 10, we had a ton of people in checkout all at once. So I was asked to stay a bit longer to help bring it down. I didn't pay much attention to the actual people in line because I was just ready to go, but noticed the customers stopped talking to me as well. I soon learned why as a cart pulled up and slammed down 2 huge boxes of diapers. It made me jump, and I looked to see who this jerk was when I saw some middle-aged balding guy in a trench coat putting stuff on the belt, with a full-grown woman sitting in the cart. Not only was she sitting there, but she had her hair in 2 pigtails. She was wearing an adult diaper with a weird tutu-style skirt and a sports bra. Not only this, but she also had a pacifier in her mouth. I didn't know what to say or how to react, so I just kept ringing up their items. Diapers, baby bottles, wipes, teething rings, and a camera. Those I remember specifically. The woman just stared at me with empty eyes, and when he noticed me staring at her, he said something like, "Isn't she precious?" and rubbed her cheek. She didn't budge, didn't flinch, smile, etc. I just continued with the purchase, gave him his receipt, and as they strolled away, she smiled at me and he didn't even look back. Creepy as hell, but thankfully never saw them again.